Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're dissecting the context, the brutal execution, and the absolutely unbelievable aftermath of what is arguably the most shocking match in modern football history. We're talking, of course, about the 2014 World Cup semifinal between the host nation Brazil and Germany. Let's break down exactly how a national dream turned into a literal nightmare on live television.
Okay, to really get this, let's throw ourselves right into the bewildered mindset of the live commentator, as the tragedy was actually unfolding on the pitch. When the professional broadcasting the match to the entire globe says, "This is the most astonishing scoreline I have ever had to give out," you know you're witnessing history. But to understand how we even got to that point, we've got to look at the immense pressure cooking inside that stadium.
Setting the World Cup stage. To put things into perspective, Brazil had this absolute fortress of an advantage. We're talking about a staggering, invincible streak of 63 unbeaten competitive home games dating all the way back to 1975. That is 39 years of home dominance. But look at the roster, and you see the glaring gaps. They were stepping onto the pitch without their talismanic star, Neymar, who was injured, and without their defensive anchor, Captain Thiago Silva, who was suspended. It was an unstoppable home field force, colliding head-on with a severely weakened Brazilian squad.
Well, the whistle blows, and it took literally 11 minutes for the cracks to show. From Germany's very first corner kick of the game, Thomas Müller was left totally unmarked in the box, and he just casually side-foots the ball into the net. This realized the exact early concession that the 200 million watching Brazilians were absolutely dreading. It was a sickening moment for the home crowd, for sure, but hey, at 1-0, a comeback is still entirely possible, right? Nobody, and I mean nobody, could have predicted what was about to happen next.
6 minutes of devastation.
Now watch how this completely unravels into an unprecedented, frankly unbelievable 6-minute, 4-goal blitz. In the 23rd minute, Miroslav Klose scores on a rebound. Just 1 minute later, the 24th minute, Toni Kroos hammers one in with his left foot. The 26th minute, Kroos strikes again. And then, 29th minute, Sami Khedira joins the party. 4 goals in 6 minutes. The Brazilian defense was completely at sea. The 70,000 fans in the stadium were literally stunned into silence. Honestly, the only sound you could hear on the broadcast was weeping from the stands.
Rewriting the record books.
So let's talk about the number 16. It represents Miroslav Klose's new all-time World Cup goal record. When he scored in the 23rd minute, he didn't just put Germany up 2-0. He broke the heart of Brazilian legend Ronaldo, who held the previous record of 15 goals. Think about that. Klose achieved this monumental feat right there on Brazilian soil against the Brazilian national team.
And right on the heels of that is the number 5. 5 goals for Germany before the clock even hit the 30-minute mark. Like the commentator noted at the time, if anyone had predicted this before the match, they would have been put in a lunatic asylum. It was an unfathomable, completely absurd level of dominance that defied every single expectation you'd ever have for a World Cup semifinal.
What's really wild here is the historical tug-of-war happening in real time. Brazil started the day as the highest-scoring nation in World Cup history with 220 goals to Germany's 216. But by the 26th minute of this match, Germany hadn't just destroyed Brazil's defense, they had literally stolen their all-time scoring crown right off their heads.
Moving into the second half, the German brick wall.
You know, to their credit, Brazil actually came out of the locker room trying to salvage some pride. They dominated the early possession, but they ran straight into a brick wall named Manuel Neuer. Neuer put on an absolute masterclass, denying Ramirez point blank, executing a spectacular double save against Paulinho, and completely foiling a sure goal from Oscar. Even when Brazil did everything right, Germany's defense just refused to yield an inch.
Completing the humiliation. Walk with me through how the Germans close this out. Substitute André Schürrle casually jogs onto the pitch and decides to add 2 more goals to the tally. First, a relatively easy finish in the 69th minute to make it 6-0. Then, 10 minutes later, he unleashes this explosive strike that pings violently off the underside of the crossbar. By this point, Germany was passing the ball around like it was a relaxed training exercise, turning a disastrous rout into total historic humiliation.
Which brings us to the horrific 7th goal. That number 7 matched Brazil's heaviest defeat in their entire national history. I mean, you have to go all the way back 94 years to a 6-0 loss to Uruguay in 1920 to find anything even remotely comparable.
Finally, in the 90th minute, Brazil's Oscar managed to break through and score. But the contrast is just brutal. A goal in a World Cup semifinal for the host nation, and it was the least celebrated goal you will ever see. No cheers, no joy, just a grim acceptance cementing the surreal 7-1 final score. In fact, even the German goalie Manuel Neuer was furious at conceding it.
Let's zoom out and look at a historic football tragedy. The live broadcast perfectly nailed the mood with this somber realization. There will be no samba in Belo Horizonte tonight. It just underscores the absolute emotional devastation of a crestfallen host nation. They had paused their entire existence to watch their team lift the trophy, only to witness a massacre. To really grasp why this matters, we need to compare eras. In Brazil, football isn't just a sport, it is their cultural identity. For 64 years, the national trauma was the Maracanazo, their 1950 World Cup final loss to Uruguay on home soil, 1-2. But look at the 2014 semifinal against Germany, 1-7. This match wasn't just a bad day at the office. It eclipsed a 64-year-old ghost to become an entirely new, deeply scarred cultural trauma, forever known as the Mineirazo.
So, I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. Will we ever witness a collapse of this magnitude on the world stage again? A 7-1 demolition of a footballing superpower on their own soil in the semifinal of the biggest tournament on Earth. It was an astonishing convergence of tactical brilliance by Germany and an inexplicable, total psychological collapse by Brazil. Thanks for joining me to break this down and keep questioning what you think is impossible in the world of sports.